On January 15th, U.S. President Donald Trump held a tense, high-priority phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as the two leaders closely examined the fast-changing situation in Iran and weighed how it could reshape security across the Middle East. This latest discussion marked their second phone conversation in just 48 hours, highlighting how urgently both Washington and Jerusalem are coordinating their response, as first revealed in a detailed report by Axios. Official spokespeople for the White House and the Israeli Prime Minister's office declined to share any details about what was said, reinforcing the sense that this was a highly sensitive, behind-closed-doors exchange at a critical moment. Behind the scenes, President Trump was carefully reviewing a spectrum of options, from targeted military strikes designed to punish Tehran, to intensified diplomatic pressure and negotiations aimed at avoiding a larger regional war. All of this unfolded while Iran's Islamic regime was struggling to contain massive street protests and deep internal turmoil, with images of unrest raising fears that any outside move could either topple the system or trigger brutal repression. In their first phone call on January 14th, Netanyahu reportedly pleaded with President Trump not to rush into a strike on Iran, pressing him to slow down the decision so that Israel would not be caught off guard by the consequences. The Israeli leader made it clear that his country needed more time to ready its forces, fortify key sites, and coordinate with allies, anticipating that any American attack on Iran could unleash a fierce wave of retaliation. Israeli security officials privately warned that the country's missile and air defenses were not yet at full strength, raising concerns they might struggle to absorb a concentrated Iranian response if Tehran decided to hit back hard. After hearing those warnings and consulting his own advisors, President Trump chose to postpone any final order for a military strike, keeping the option alive but stepping back from an immediate confrontation, at least for the moment. Top U.S. officials briefed Trump that current deployments and strike packages might not be enough to seriously weaken Iran's regime while fully shielding American troops, bases, and interests scattered across the region. Tehran has repeatedly signaled that if it is attacked, it will retaliate directly against U.S. military bases and assets in the Middle East, turning any limited strike into a potentially spiraling confrontation across multiple countries. American officials stress that military action is still very much on the table, warning that if Iran resumes large-scale killings or executions of protesters, Washington is prepared to respond in a far more forceful way. At the same time, Netanyahu has sent Mossad Chief David Barnea to the United States for high-level consultations, underlining how seriously Israel is treating the Iranian threat and the need for close coordination with Washington. Barnea met Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff in Miami on January 16th, where the two held intensive talks focused on Iran's nuclear ambitions, its regional proxies, and how to manage the dangerous escalatory spiral now underway. On a separate track, Russia's President Vladimir Putin held his own conversations with both Netanyahu and Iranian President Mossad, positioning Moscow as a potential broker in this increasingly volatile crisis. According to the Kremlin, Putin's stated aim is to de-escalate the standoff, using Russia's ties with both sides to cool tempers, reduce the risk of miscalculation, and nudge the conflict back toward political dialogue instead of open war.